Hello and welcome to the Pre-Chiro Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ben Glass, and today I have the pleasure of having a pro-chiro connection with Dr. Patrick McMahon. Dr. Patrick, can you kind of just get us started by introducing yourself and reflecting back to where you were at in life when you decided to become a chiropractor?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my name is Patrick McMahon. I've been in practice for about 20 years now. I went to Parker College of Chiropractic, and I was led there by divine grace or providence, if you will. Just a series of injuries and accidents that continued to occur in my life. And every time that I would go have an experience with chiropractic, it was just an exceptional experience. And it just naturally jived with my philosophy and worldview. And I believe that the body is self healing and that we're by design healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kept going until finally I got the message and got it like, okay, I need to go check this out as a career. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Can you touch deeper on the details of like maybe label some of who you identified yourself as growing up and how that might have fed into your development as a chiropractor?
yeah, I mean, wow, there's a whole series of events we could get into. I don't know how deep we want to go right off the
Well, just
bat,
like I
but
was an athlete, or I was a
Mhm.
farmer, or I was
Yeah.
the son of a teacher, or yeah, anything that you had as a direct experience that really, when you look back at it now, primed you as an individual. You just said that chiropractic was congruent with your values, and I'm
Yes.
just curious how that came to be.
Okay, so perfect. If we just go dive in right to the heart of it. My father passed away when I was 11 years old, and it was a very, very challenging time. I mean, it's challenging for everybody anyway. And then losing the only male role model in your life as you're starting to, go through puberty, become an adult, and figure out like who you are and what that is. And so, very much would have been the classic ADD, does not live up to potential kind of student. They wanted to put me on Ritalin. Obviously, a bit of depression because it was a very trying time, a lot of grief. They wanted to put me on Prozac. I was very angry and upset. Did a lot of martial arts, got into wrestling, weightlifting, tried to armor myself up as much as possible. And all of that led me to a point where when I was about 15, 16, lifting weights and squatting with weight that was way, way too heavy, and my system locked in a defensive posture, and my spine just gave way. I had a compression fracture at T8, and it was the most horrible, horrible pain I've ever experienced to this day. And analgesics or painkillers didn't touch it. Um, and my mom took me to a chiropractor, and the guy, like, he didn't even really explain anything about chiropractic, but he was just really, really present, and he was with me, and he was a very powerful human being. He had been a professional football player for the Denver Broncos, real man's man kind of guy, but like a gentle giant. Like I just
Mm-hmm.
could feel his heart and his caring, and immediate improvement in my symptoms. But then over time, what I noticed was I just felt better in my body and more peaceful in my body, and I
Mm-hmm.
innately was attracted to that and wanted more of that.
Mm-hmm.
So when I had they were trying to stick the labels, the ADD or the depression, and they wanted to do the Ritalin or Prozac, and I was just like, no, I don't. I know that's not right. I know I'm not broken. I'm stuck and I need help. So innately, I got that, and then my experience having found chiropractic, even though he didn't explain the philosophy or our beautiful worldview, I felt it, and I felt it in my own being, and it was something that he didn't have to sell me. It was just naturally right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and let's kind of get deeper into not having to sell somebody, but finding out where people are stuck, or just kind of representing yourself as a person who was stuck at a time and found a way to free themselves, and just kind of maybe talk about what it's like to be a chiropractor. Let's just kind of fast forward to who you are today,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll go back into your chiropractic student experience. But you
Okay.
shared a number of words there that kind of triggered things inside of me. So I was just wondering if you could kind of express yourself as a chiropractor today, what your intention is when you're working with others, and kind of what you want to contextualize being a chiropractor as for maybe a high school or college student or career changer.
Yeah. Sure. So Well, one of the things that potential students will certainly want to be aware of is um, kind of we have a worldview in chiropractic, or traditional chiropractic. We have a worldview in that there is an intelligence to life. Okay, there's something that's in living beings that's not in inanimate objects. You know, if you were to find a Rolex or a Ferrari or some precision instrument and go, wow, this is amazing. It didn't just randomly fall together like that. And if you get the right engineer or designer or technician, then they could take that Ferrari or Rolex or precision instrument apart and they get all the parts out and they put it back together and that thing winds right back up again. But there's something special in living beings. Most things tend towards disorder, but in life, there's something that creates order and organization. And as you get into your prereqs and stuff and you learn about physics, they talk about entropy. So things break down the chaos. And so our training group, we call it Syntropy because it is about that universal intelligence, that innate intelligence inside of us that's organizing. And so that would be the first thing, and understand that like there's something amazing inside of us that's causing us to, first of all, survive and then thrive and heal, adapt and evolve. And really chiropractic is about expressing that at a higher level and then understanding that most people do come to us with different body signals. For me, it was incredible pain in my back. And not to exclude those people and make it like, oh, no, 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 this is just about releasing the power of life. It's like understanding that there's a human being in the situation and they're showing up in your office for a reason. And that chiropractic has been incredibly, incredibly powerful at symptoms improving, these body signals going away, because we're just helping that intelligence of the body function at a higher level. And a balanced body does what it needs to do to heal. So really that being kind of a core difference between, say, a medical or outside in or what might be a pathogenic model. So for students, a lot of times we go for quote unquote healthcare or sick care exclusively when there's something wrong. And we go to kind of not feel that and take that away. Mm-hmm. And really chiropractic being on that salutogenic side of the scale, it's not about taking something away. It's about restoring something that's normal and natural. So I just think that's fundamental for students to understand. It was very, very challenging to me to get that. I knew it is innately right. But I had issues with it as well because it was very mechanical in the way I was living my life. But it wasn't necessarily congruent with who I really was on that deeper level. So there, I've gone on a little bit of tangent. I don't know if we're still in the
it's
same
very
topic.
helpful. So as we're bringing people into chiropractic and we're trying to help them reflect on how they may be very mechanical in the way that they live their life, whether it's they're counting calories or they're at the gym and they're really measuring how many pounds they're able to lift, blah 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 blah. Maybe their grades. How can we kind of bridge that gap of establishing a chiropractic mindset or approaching life through a chiropractic lens for the college or high school student to start to like see maybe how chiropractors think or maybe how chiropractors approach the sciences a little bit differently, because most students are going to be in the heavy sciences right now,
of course,
while they're learning from us.
I would say the first thing that I would recommend to any student that really wants to get immersed in chiropractic is do something to get connected with yourself. I believe truth is truth, and as you start to get more connected in your own body, it will resonate with you. So a lot of body type practices. I mean, obviously the easy low hanging fruit would be yoga, breathing practices, movement and meditation. I really love something called original strength, which is learning to move as we learn to move as a baby. But things that get you embodied and connected with your body again, because it's kind of our vehicle in this life. And the more connected to it we are, that's just going to take you a long, long way in being an amazing chiropractor. Yeah.
I love it. And can you now reflect back on your chiropractic student experience? You get to chiropractic school. which directions did you gravitate towards? Who were maybe some of the bigger mentors or
Hmm.
resources, maybe books that transformed you, or seminars that you attended, or
Hmm.
groups of people that you aligned yourself with?
Yeah, so it was very, very interesting experience. I went to Parker, and I was excited because they had the most techniques, and I just wanted to kind of get the alphabet soup after my name. I wanted to be a diplomate, because in chiropractic you have certain postgraduate diplomate programs. I wanted to be a diplomate in neurology and orthopedics and radiology, and kind of just be this doctor, you know. And so I really, really was very mechanical as a biochem major, biochemistry and nutrition science in school. And I really just wanted to be like all about the mechanisms. And I was very, very fortunate to cross paths with someone very early in my career who was a great, great mentor of mine, Dr. Arnaud Bernier. And yeah, he just cracked me wide open with an amazing, amazing adjustment. And he adjusted me, and there was this tremendous before and after experience. And it was what we in Centropy, my business partner Aaron and myself, we call it the undeniable experience, because I didn't need evidence. I didn't need randomized clinical controlled trials. I was like, wow, something just shifted. And I thought maybe that was a fluke, but I got adjusted by him again at another time. And then I started connecting with other mentors. Lou Corletto was a big mentor of mine as well. Sue Brown, some amazing people in chiropractic. But basically, what that did is Arno invited me to have a parallel curriculum during school, which is while you're studying your sciences and you're really doing what you need to do for your classes, take a parallel curriculum to improve yourself as a human being, as a chiropractor, and just be excellent. He said, do you want to be a master, or you want to be mediocre? So that was pretty much like the light bulb moment, the real connection moment for me, that where my life path just shifted. And I still had a need to know, and I still wanted to learn more and more about this, but I knew that I want to do what that man did. And if somebody can do it, then anybody can do it. And I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna learn to do what he could do for other people.
Mhm.
And so that led me on a path. And I like to say I started chiropractic philosophy in reverse. So my first connection would have been Arnaud. And then I went back to Joe Strauss and started reading these. We have in the chiropractic profession these blue books. And then I met Reggie Gold, and he became a big mentor of mine. Really amazing chiropractor that a lot of people in our profession know. And then from there, I started going back and reading the green books and getting more into BJ, and then going back to Stevenson, and then getting to really what I believe is the greatest stuff ever in chiropractic is Didi's original writings. And so that would have been the path. Arno would have been very much the spearhead that introduced me and really gifted me with the experience of chiropractic. And then from there, it was just this, I got to know everything about this. And if I can do that, like, wow, there's how different could life be for so many people? And so that
Mhm.
was really kind of my path into that.
No, I appreciate it. The lineage is so important of that passing down of that pure like message vibration to people in our generation. I You came way before me, yet chiropractic or Arno was also that person that really, yeah, shifted my consciousness. Can you talk a little bit about what your parallel curriculum looked like? Obviously, you just broke down some of the resources and the
Mm-hmm.
people that you hooked into, but on a daily basis, how did you structure your time? How did that shift while you were in
Yeah.
school? How did you really integrate the parallel curriculum into your experience?
Okay. Well, I feel like chiropractic school is this really intense experience, and you're also training your nervous system, training your body how to learn. So in the beginning, it's challenging. I'm not going to lie; it's kind of a boot camp experience, but you can get through it. Everybody gets through it, you know. But it's learning to learn. And so, what I really feel was very beneficial for me is I really, stuck into that first year of school, learning anatomy and physiology as well as possible, and also like biochemistry. So understanding physiological processes with the mindset of oh man, this is how cancer develops, or this is how heart disease develops. I don't care about that because I'm a chiropractor. But no, with the mindset of like, wow, how freaking amazing is the body? Like, this is so incredibly intricate, and it's just like this innate intelligence brimming with everything. What is the body? What is the intelligence of the body trying to do? So with that mindset and really going, yeah, this is relevant for chiropractic. So really dive into that for that first year. And what I found that that did is when you have a solid skeleton structure, then later I wouldn't say you could cruise, but it's a little more cruisy. You can relax a little more because you've got that skeleton structure to understand and start applying the clinical sciences on top. And
Mm-hmm.
what that does is that affords you more freedom in your time. And from that point, it's like, okay, now you've got to really work to get the philosophy and the art a lot on your own. I mean, it's not completely devoid in all schools, but there's just not enough time to really approach this from a mastery level. So
Mm-hmm.
my advice would be crank it hard that first year so that you can create the freedom to really develop that parallel curriculum in the second and third year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how it worked for me.
Hmm. And I want to keep inviting you to expand into what that second and third year can look like if you
Okay.
do have that strong foundation. What are some things that if you build your capacity, you're able to connect or reach within yourself or touch within yourself?
Awesome. So, two major things. One was like a personal development course. So I did all kinds of personal development work. I wanted to get as clear with myself as possible. Again, Arno being a huge mentor, he really talked about, working on your baggage. And so dealing with traumas in my life, dealing with the grief of my father passing, just wearing that armor around in my life. So I did a lot of stuff. I was like Anthony Robbins, like landmark stuff. I went to this Authentic Man program that was awesome, like super powerful. Arno had a camp as well. But basically, just like whatever it is to get clear and in touch with who you are. Okay, so that's fundamental, fundamental. And then the second part would be like, okay, what are the skill sets of a chiropractor? So I really dove into the philosophy and the reading that I was talking about um, a lot, being around Arnaud and then Joe Strauss and Reggie Gold, um, digging deep into that. I was huge into neuro. So there's a guy, Ted Carrick, that does like a functional neurology program. I don't really do functional neurology per se, but I wanted to understand like the mechanisms of how the nervous system works. So that was huge for me. I started doing a lot of courses there, and then it was like technique. Like my money went towards technique seminars. So I did every technique that came around. It was like network, BGI, DNFT, torque release, all these like tonal techniques, and then also the structural adjusting I learned from a lot from Arnaud, from Ted Carrick, is an amazing adjuster as well. Michael Hall, who else? Just tons of people going and really spending the time. Gonstead, I was huge into Gonstead. So basically, what I did was, and what I would invite the students to do is have this open mind, because you're going to naturally be drawn into certain ways that just resonate with you and certain techniques like, yeah, that's great. I want to do that. But holding that open mind, because we have a tendency to get that closed mindset and go, yeah, I'm focusing here. And there's kind of, you can always change it in the future. You can. And there's a moment in time where you have a connection and you have an ability to do seminars at student prices. They're coming to the campus and you're immersed with other people. Like, just soak it all in and make, the art and being able to deliver the chiropractic adjustment, just put that forefront in your mind, because being connected with yourself and doing the personal work is what's going to help you connect with human beings. It's going to help you to know to say the right things, to be present. People will feel it, right? And you can only work with people where you're, in Century we call it being the primary oscillator. So being the one that's the most dropped in and connected to your body, so that you can be present with that person. You're not blown out by big energy or big personalities. And then that's one thing. And then the second part is the delivery. So it's almost like sensory motor, right? So you got to be able to sense and perceive what's going on, but then to actually deliver the chiropractic adjustment, it's a skill set. It's an art. It's an athletic endeavor, and you got to train it like a professional. You got to train it big time. So that would be my invitation, and that would be kind of that second and third year. What I really, really focused on was, okay, I'm going to get the information I need to pass boards here, and it's going to be okay. But if I really want to be that master, I want to be that exceptional chiropractor, I'm going to dig in deep and do all the techniques I can do, and just take it all on.
And all these bits of recommendations and reflections that you're providing are, I'm sure, permeating throughout the seminar you offer. But can you kind of introduce people to Syntropy, why you created it, what maybe gap it fills, or what it adds on to so that students can feel more supported by you and the people you work with?
Yes, absolutely. So like I said, Arno was a huge mentor of mine, and I worked with him like for years and years and years, taught with him. And I think what I took from Arno the most, besides taking this thing so seriously, like you're a professional and be a professional about it, but really the concept of adjusting people from peace. Okay, so that's the number one nugget that I feel that I was gifted with by Arno. And so what that means, if you pre-chiropractors and students, a lot of times we're taught to like take things to all this tension, you put this little force in, but it's not necessarily the most honoring, and it can create a level of threat in the body. And it's just not the same as adjusting someone from a place of physiological ease, okay, which is what we really, really work to do. But beyond that, what made Syntropy different and where it branched off from there was just a schematic reverse engineering and deconstructing like what all these master chiropractors do naturally and can't necessarily teach it. Okay, so Arno is like this master adjuster, Sue Brown, Lou Corletto, and they have these gifts, and a lot of times students will think, well, I just don't have that, or they have something special that I don't have. And so what we did, how this came into being, was my wife was in the very first class at the Barcelona College of Chiropractic. We live in Barcelona, Spain. And she was like, I get chiropractic. I get the philosophy. I want to be able to deliver it. But me and my classmates don't feel that we can. And so a lot of them kind of respected me and my partner, Aaron Morris, like, man, you guys can adjust. Will you come show us? And so we would go to kind of help them and just realize that we had reached a certain level of competency because we'd been working over 15 years, and then realized we had no idea how to teach it, right? And so there was this void that was presented like, oh man, how do we do that? How do these guys do what they're doing? And so it was this evolution of this thing where we developed our hierarchy, which is a Syntropy hierarchy. And it's a systematic way to break down and deconstruct what the masters do. And then everything they do, how to have deep practice and training in that. So our hierarchy, very briefly, there's 5 things. And the first thing is what we call dropping in. Okay. And I alluded to that a little bit earlier, but it's about being connected with your body and being present. Because a lot of people talk about present time consciousness and just be here now, but they don't really teach a way to do that necessarily. And so we decided, like, we've done a lot of work in that embodiment space, and how do you do it? So we broke it down and we train that throughout the entire weekend. So that's our bedrock. Like, don't touch anybody until you're dropped in. And we say the adjustment begins as soon as someone comes into your field. So training that drop in. The next step would be kind of biomechanics, analysis, neurology, like, okay, what are we looking at with the physiology? Okay, what's innate doing? And then what's our application? How do we know that we've worked with innate instead of against it? And how do we know that this universal force that we put in the body was received well for constructive purposes? So really, really, it's kind of like in the body and then in the mind, right? And this kind of, we do that throughout the weekend. And then the next thing is what we really, really got from Arno, and that's the practice member person positioning, the person that you're adjusting, getting them to a place of physiological ease. So there's no tension, there's no torsion, there's no torquing in their meninges. Like, they're just super comfortable and they could hang out in that position. Okay, so we spent a lot of time on that. Next thing, which I think Syntropy really, really added to, was the chiropractor positioning. Okay, because you'll see, I mean, as you get into chiropractic, students, you'll see it's an athletic endeavor. And one thing, you can train a lot, you can do push-ups, you can train your body, but it's not CrossFit either. It's more subtle. It's like Aikido. It's like jujitsu. It's leverage. And so I went to go work with a guy down in Buenos Aires, a good friend of mine, David Serio. And David Serio, he's not the tallest guy in the world, and he had these really low tables. And I went right out of school into like day one, go adjust 100 people. And I'd done more push-ups and squats and everything. I was prepared to adjust, but I was destroyed. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this for the rest of my life. This is day one. And so like day two, day three, it's kind of, I'm like trying to position myself in ways to where the pain doesn't go into different joints. And I started learning about, okay, well, position, I'd done a lot of Aikido and I'd done some jujitsu as well. And it's learning to position like your base of support and then your center of mass, and then get your arms in a way where no leverage bounces back in your body, so that for the least amount of output, you get the greatest amount of, I'm sorry, for the, yeah, least amount of input into them, you get the greatest amount of output. And so that was really what Centropy really focuses on, is proper biomechanics for the chiropractor, for two reasons. One is for your longevity and your energy level in practice. And number two is it's way more efficient in that universal force. You have to use less force to get the outcome. And then above that, which is the cherry on top, which is what everybody wants to do and be flashy and fast and cool, it's the force application. So it's learning to train speed and rate of force development. But that's like, we always say that's the cherry on top. If you don't have the other steps, then being fast and not precise and not connected doesn't matter. So that's kind of the lens that we teach through. And so that moved more and more into, okay, we have two spectrums of people. We have the students that feel like, I don't feel competent. I don't know how to adjust. And so we feel like we can really take them towards a level of competency much faster. It's kind of shortening the learning curve and giving them a training program that will get them there much, much faster. And then the veterans, the docs who've been in practice for a long time, a lot of them they're like bored and burnout and really beat up. And a lot of people change their technique, not out of love, but out of necessity, because they're broken, right? And so why does it work with those two opposite ends of the spectrum? Is because we just go fundamental. What are the fundamentals of what you need to do to deliver a great adjustment in an efficacious, efficient, energy-rich way, and that patients love? You know, your people that you're taking care of, it's just such a smooth way to receive it that they automatically want to refer people, and they automatically go, is this okay for kids? Can I bring my kids in? Or my mom's 90 years old and she's got XYZ. Is this okay? Can I bring her in? And it just naturally arises because they feel that it's safe and it's clean and it's a beautiful thing.
It is. Before we move on to another topic, can you talk about Syntropy's, like, you've got a lot of momentum now, you've been teaching for years, you've really put a lot of work into constructing the ecosystem, or the kind of the skeleton, but also really trying to provide students with the opportunity to take it where they want to take it. Can you kind of zoom out and say, okay, this is where we're at and this is where we're going, and maybe what your intention is in the next 5 or 10 years as far as keeping this thing available and keeping students aware that it exists, but also can transform not only their education but their experience as a professional?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so our big vision is super, super clear, and it's to train the best adjusters on the planet. And it's not from a place of like, oh, we're the best adjusters or anything like that. We want to train people to be their best selves and their best adjusters, because we believe that what will truly move the needle forward in the profession is more and more chiropractors consistently delivering the undeniable experience. If that first chiropractor I went to would have tried to explain or sell me on chiropractic or anything like that, it would not have had the same impact as him delivering an undeniable experience. And so our vision and our goal is to get as many chiropractors and chiropractic students as possible proficient in that, in an understanding and in a model that's easy to explain to people, and in a way that they're connected with people and they can deliver the goods.
Hmm.
So that's our complete vision. We've been doing this in Europe and Australia and Asia, and it's really grown, but we really feel like we'll move the needle more in the profession in the States. So we're
Hmm.
working here a lot more now.
Hmm.
Um, and it's not like, I don't know how to describe it. Uh, it's not like it's competitive to any other seminar or any other approach or anything like that. It's not even our mindset or our thought process. Our thought process is we need as many chiropractors on the planet being able to deliver the undeniable experience, and that's what's driving us. Yeah.
Hmm. Awesome. I love it. Uh, yeah, really exciting. I feel as though there's a lot of synergy with a lot of the different people that I bring on this conversation style show. Um, I'm just I'm just looking at it and I'm seeing that we've got about 300 entities, whether they be like little camps, like seminars,
Mhm.
or actual state associations, or schools, or student clubs. The list goes on and on. Our profession is actually really strong. I just think that we're going in 300 directions, and there's not a focus that has everybody pooling resources or pooling efforts to try and move us in one direction altogether. And I'm not even talking about the entirety of the profession. I'm just talking about within the camp that's aligned with what you and I are
Yeah.
talking about right here. There is so much, whether we realize it or not. I've just done a lot of research to become aware of everything that exists and that's out there. It's really exciting to me. I feel like there's a lot of magic when you start to connect and build bridges between, say, your camp and your tribe that you're building, and maybe the students in your tribe, but also the people that have gone on to graduate and start practicing, but look back and say that you were the most transformational, or you were the seminar that really helped propel them in the direction that they're now in right now, which is in practice. And I'm just curious, like, what's possible in your mind if we really do start to, I'm just trying to ask different questions,
Hmm.
which is like we could continue having amazing conversation here, but I feel like the harder conversation to have is like the reality that our profession is somewhat fragmented, and
Yeah.
not because we don't have similar values or align in chiropractic, but just because we don't have direction. So if you were a general in charge, what are you kind of asking, or as a question for us to really start to explore what's possible? Or I'm just kind of,
Yeah.
yeah.
I know where you're going, and it's like it's such a challenging question. I totally recognize, and uh, it resonates. It's so true in our profession. I think part of it is inherent to our side. So we always talk about, like, well, our side in chiropractic is a bit polarized in the, say, a mechanistic and a vitalistic or traditional chiropractic crowd. And it's typically our vitalistic side that circles the wagons and shoots inwards. But I think a large part of that is just our innate who we are as people. We're kind of countercultural. We're not just drinking the Kool-Aid. We're anti-authoritarian. We're individualistic. Um, and from a business or general perspective of like, all right, we got to line up and go this way. Um, it's a challenge, man. And I'd like to see us line up more and more and more, and still respect and appreciate that it's that diversity, and it's that the diversity in life, like you go to an old growth forest that's just so much more powerful. Like, I live in Spain, and it's much drier there, and it's just not as alive. I come back, I'm in North Carolina right now, and the forest is just incredible. It's just teeming with life. And so those little differences between us also kind of helps advance us. So I'd love to see, like, maybe a mutual respect and less, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Because it's not hatred. I don't think it's hatred at all. I would just like to see more understanding, I guess. And I'm guilty of it too. I mean, I think everybody is. You kind of think, well, obviously, I think my way is the right way, or I would be doing it a different way.
Mhm.
But just kind of a healthy understanding, and realize, like, okay, we're all trying to advance this thing forward.
Mhm.
Um, and how that works as a general, um, I don't know that I'm very good at that, other than we probably need to connect more. You know, I think we need more connection between different people. I think there needs to be openness and communication. There's also, on quote unquote our side, there's a fundamentalist and a progressive mentality. So there's like, if it didn't happen in, students won't necessarily understand this, but in our green books, we have these books that are very important that kind of laid down the philosophy. And like, if it didn't happen in Stevenson's and it's not in, you know, the normal complete cycle or whatever, then it's not chiropractic. And then other people that have a different, more open idea, while not losing, like, what is the essence of chiropractic. So having that communication and that conversation, it's challenging. It's a family, you know, it's like a big, loving, dysfunctional family. But it has come to my attention as I've gotten older, and I go and I speak with a lot of other professionals. It's a pretty normal thing. It's a pretty normal thing, and it's different for us, I think, because we're so countercultural and naturally anti-authoritarian.
Mhm.
So I know that didn't answer your question at all.
No, it did. Absolutely 110% it did. I would love to go deeper before we move on to my final section here, if you have the time.
Mhm.
You got 15 more minutes. We're good?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'm good.
So if I'm the general, right, Sun Tzu, Art of War, Divide and Conquer, we look at the landscape right now, and this is what spawned this whole project. Is I got into chiropractic school. I went to a school that was very mechanistic, actually absent of any chiropractic. They didn't even allow green books on the campus.
Okay.
And then I transferred after going to some weekend seminars to a school that was very vitalistic and very
Hmm.
central on progressing chiropractic and illuminating the path in many
Hmm.
directions of how a chiropractic student could flourish. But um, looking back, the schools are not providing resources that are readily accessible
Hmm.
to students at other schools. So you talk about connecting more, you talk about building bridges. What would happen if our schools, a student club that was practicing syntropy at one school, brought it to a school that syntropy didn't exist, and you had these students caring enough about their fellow students, right?
Yeah.
It's like you talk about caring enough. It's like, do we really care enough about our chiropractic students? Do we really care enough about our pre-chiropractic students? Do we care enough about our chiropractors? I know a lot of people, um, I know a lot of schools tout we have the number one alumni satisfaction, but if you ask the actual alumni, do they care about what that school is doing and do they want to give back? They're like, no, I'm living my own life. Like
Yeah.
that served a purpose. So I totally hear you. Culturally, though, if we can step out front and say, hey, pre-Cairo has never really existed, we're establishing it, and we're
Hmm.
establishing a culture that now trickles up into chiropractic students, which trickles up into chiropractors, and we identify all of the people contributing, all of the entities contributing. I think now it's like we're being inclusive of all the
Hmm.
voices, um, and we're opening a dialogue, students to students, maybe syntropy to students at schools that you've never connected with,
Hmm.
um, because those students now have access to your resources, even though they go to a school which doesn't necessarily allow for your resources to enter onto their campus. That's
Hmm.
the internet being our great sort of leveler,
Equalizer. Yeah.
yeah, equalizer. So I'm
Yeah.
just
It's a
pushing
great
that
idea.
back to you.
Great idea. Yeah, I can see how, certainly reaching out to the students, and I think that's kind of where it starts. And I think we need it in the profession as well. Really, just a collective identity. And so I guess, kind of going back to that question about being the general, I think even if we could just accept certain basic principles that I know it won't necessarily excite the purist, but like an innate intelligence, a universal intelligence. There's something incredibly brilliant running the show here, and of our lives and our bodies. And so the acceptance of that, and I think we understand that it expresses primarily, it's organized at least and orchestrated through the nervous system, and that can become dysregulated, imbalanced, disconnected, and that really the adjustment is about restoring that connection. It's about the restoration of the connection with that intelligence.
Mhm.
And I think if we just more and more of us could get behind that and realize, like, hey, if that's the potential we have, if we have the potential to connect someone with that absolute brilliance and intelligence that's inside of them, um, we should probably take this thing pretty seriously, and train like professionals. So I think if we could get more and more people in the profession on board with that, because my experience has been, like, I'm not even into judging people that want to do other things, and they practice, they're practicing legally within their scope, and they're entitled to do what they wish to do. And like, how cool would it be if no matter what chiropractic office you went in, even if they were doing their weight loss or other things, what if you got a world class adjustment? What if you got a world class adjustment? So I definitely think it will make a massive difference in helping the pre-chiro students and the chiro students, and helping connect them to that they might not be getting as much in school,
Mhm.
but also reconnecting to the practicing chiropractors that are out there, that, like, man, you want to build a practice, you want to be effective in your community, you want natural referrals, and you want people to go, this man changed my life, this lady just changed the trajectory of how my life panned out. Like, focus on this, as a profession. And I think really, really, I don't know how to do that other than more and more of us stepping up. Arno used to say this, and he's like, it's the only profession I know of that's gone down in quality. You've got people run a faster 100 meters. They're better tennis players. Mixed martial arts has evolved in 30 some years. Like, it's incredible. And chiropractic as a whole has not. That being said, there are pockets in the community where I think there's better chiropractic available in the world than there ever has been. And
Mhm.
that is happening. So it's just more about, like, let's make that the norm. Let's make that cool. Let's get them exposed to that. Chiropractic students, practicing chiropractors, people that maybe have gotten lost in practice and they're not connected with chiropractic anymore. And
Mhm.
so more and more of us waking up and doing that, I
Mhm.
feel like that's where the juice is at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's where it's happening now, my brother. Thank you for contributing to that. I really appreciate the
You
level
as
of
well.
clarity and detail that you went into today. And I know that it was just the tip of the iceberg as far as like what the experience actually looks like, but I think you did a really amazing job of contextualizing the path and the skills and the just the things you think on as a chiropractic student, as a chiropractor. So thank you.
That's awesome.
Is there any questions you have towards me? I'm an open book as far as just
Hmm.
kind of having these dialogues and seeing where it takes me. But is there anything that we spoke about in the conversation today that you would like to spend these last couple of minutes maybe keying in on or
Yeah,
exploring?
sure. No, I think it's just a great initiative that you've taken here, and it's definitely, it's a focus that I don't think anyone has taken. Maybe chiropractic schools thinking how to get prospective students, but then engaging with prospective students of, like, hey, this is this beautiful thing that we have. Like, make sure you're connected to it from the beginning. I love that, and I want to know how to get that out, and how to really, like, how are you connecting with these pre-chiropractic students and reaching out to them, because I
Mm-hmm.
think it's just a great idea.
Yeah, so as you know from reflecting back on the Syntropy training developments, is you started hearing messages writing on the wall that, hey, what you were offering is important. And
Hmm.
every conversation we come to this place where it's like, wow, this initiative is actually really important. It's not questions that have
Hmm.
been asked before. What are you doing? How can we make this happen? And just to step back, like I realized this was important 10 years ago. And the question is like, why didn't you just put it out? Well, when you come out and say that this is something, this is an area of study that has never really been talked about, but now we're creating pre-Cairo studies,
Hmm.
you have a lot of responsibility and you have to do it right because you really only get one shot to make that first impression on the profession as a whole, but also on that sort of college, high school, bureaucratic sort of structure that you're trying to penetrate and sort of enter into
Hmm.
as far as a profession, right? Our profession has not really asked the questions of if we enter college campuses, how are we entering them? if we enter college curriculum, how are we entering it?
Hmm.
So there's a lot to tease out on that. I mean,
Hmm.
just to kind of share a couple of things that for a person in your position, I would say are low-hanging fruits is using the hashtag become a chiro, using the hashtag pre-chiro or pre-chiropractic, creating actual materials in the name of syntropy training that are directed for pre-chiropractic students to kind
Hmm.
of show how there is a sort of opportunity to prime yourself before you go to a syntropy training by
Hmm.
developing and familiarizing yourself with certain concepts, with certain areas of self-improvement and self-reflection.
Hmm.
As like creating a framework of that parallel curriculum, which is maybe a little loose, but it's like the syntropy parallel curriculum. And
Hmm.
basically just starting to recognize that we're all unique in our own beautiful ways. And um, I'm going to be trying to create an ecosystem where you've got maybe a new list coming out every year of like these are the best academic resources for pre-chiro
Hmm.
students, for chiro students, and for chiropractors. You know, if you want to go do certain types of education, you know, blah blah blah. These are the best digital resources, whether it be podcasts or TikTok or Instagram
Hmm.
or Facebook. These are the tribes and channels to hook into where you can start to bathe yourself in chiropractic. And so really just solo building the website, in the last 32 days I've had like 50 of these conversations, all with amazing
Wow.
students and chiropractors that have been in practice longer than you or that aren't even in school yet, pre-chiropractic students.
Hmm.
I'm trying to get more chiropractic students to be on here and have conversations with one another and find like really interesting similarities, commonalities, and like you get a Gonstead student at one school talking with a Gonstead student at another school, or
Hmm.
you get a first quarter student at one school talking with a 12th quarter student at another school, just like having fun experimenting with these different dynamics that arise, right?
Hmm.
And just to give you an example of how we've really lacked vision with pre-Chiro, it's like the pre-med hashtag has got like over 1 million at this point. Pre-physical therapy has over 800,000. Pre-Chiro has 200. And that's just like
Yeah.
right there, you can kind of see how it's a gift that our profession hasn't focused on that. So people like you and me, who might be a
Hmm.
very small percentage of a small percentage, can actually be the ones that represent the profession in the eyes of the public. Like, so to be specific with your question, creating like high level commercials, which are not cheap, they cost maybe 30 grand for a 1 minute commercial,
Yeah.
and directing that ourselves or having a collaboration where we all direct, a commercial. I live 10 minutes from Life West, so
Hmm.
that's something that I'm currently trying to do is potentially raise some money just to create an example of what it looks like if say you know 200 different entities, whether they be state associations, international associations, schools, chiropractic seminars, chiropractic companies, product companies, they all maybe throw $100 or $200 at it, and now we have $30,000 and we have a product that came from that 100 or $200. It's like if I
Hmm.
asked you, can you throw $100 or $200 in, and
Hmm.
we're going to have this 1 minute commercial that looks really good and communicates chiropractic as well as we can, and you'll have input on how that gets directed, what the scenes are, what the narration is. Like that's where I feel like we're working together and creating examples of collaboration. But yeah, man, I mean, if our presence begins to exist on campuses, which obviously it's best from the inside out. So it's not going to be an admissions team that comes from the outside and says, hey, we're going to try and put chiropractic on this campus. It's going to come from students who studied with people like you or me that are on a college or high school campus saying, wow, I've just spent the last 6 months or the last 2 years studying chiropractic, practicing some skills that help me communicate and lead others towards chiropractic. Let me go to my administrators. Let me go to the health center at my campus. I'm paying tuition dollars. Let me go to the president and the teachers and the guidance counselors. And now chiropractic has all of a sudden been connected to all these places through the
Hmm.
students. And you just put the power in the students. I feel like if we challenge students earlier and often to
Hmm.
show up for chiropractic because this is a direction they're going and they see the potential they have to make an impact and really reach their campus. I mean, you and I can agree college and high school campuses and even chiropractic campuses can be really toxic as far as the food options and the lack of sleep and the types of behaviors of the community as a whole. So, what if we showed, maybe through research, maybe through data, that we're able to shift the consciousness and lifestyle and set up and environmental resources by introducing pre-Chiro clubs on different campuses that are started by students, run by students, but guided by people like us. I think that we can get really far. We could start to have a presence of chiropractors on the health centers or
Hmm.
in the faculty as adjunct professors. Because I think if you ask chiropractors around the area, they'd be, oh yeah, I could teach 1 hour, 2 hours, even if it's online. Just making it available so it's in like the course offerings for a
Hmm.
campus to have a pre-Chiro class, you know?
Hmm.
These little things all would add up to a huge wave and momentum. And then the last thing I'll share with you is what if we're introducing chiropractic into, say, Scotland or I just was having a conversation with somebody who's introducing it into India. They're starting
Hmm.
schools and Egypt. They're starting schools, and it's like they have a curriculum that's been given to them as a gift by these vitalistic chiropractic schools. Like New Zealand has given that gift to the new Australian school
Yeah,
and to the new Egyptian school that's about to open. They're using that curriculum, but
it's
how
awesome.
do you actually market the profession to the general public? Well, that's why we need these 1 minute commercials, these 30-second commercials. That's why we need information that's been created for the prospective student. Um,
Mhm.
there's a lot of stuff, you know what I mean? And that could take millions of dollars in budgets and full-time employees and organization that's just focused on like how do we connect the dots? How do we build bridges between our profession and new countries? Just that alone. Not even saying like once a student gets into school and they're at say a school that is, let's just say, chiropractic medicine, how do we introduce them to the parallel curriculum? So even though they're at that school, they don't become a victim of circumstance, but they get to create their own reality of like, hey, I have 24 hours in a day. Let's make it happen. I got school, and then I've got my chiropractic program. Anyway, you get where I'm coming from,
I
but
do.
there's just a lot.
Yeah, it's a huge vision, a huge project, and I really admire you and much respect for taking this on and going there. It's something we definitely need. So
For
I'd love to
sure,
support
bro.
you in whatever way I can.
Anything come to mind just after I just kind of dumped a ton of info on you there? Anything stick out to you as being like, we talk about a hierarchy,
Hmm.
maybe like what the foundation was that you heard, and then like orders of priority or importance?
Um, no, I mean, I think you spelled it out pretty well. It's basically like getting that message out, and how does that happen? I think it happens by more and more people being connected. You said doing it from the inside out, and just like it's just once you get connected to this, it's a natural extension to want to share it with other human beings. So no, I think it sounds awesome, amazing.
Right on. Right on. Can you just rattle off where people can learn more about Syntropy, what types of
Mhm.
resources you already have available, just so that we could hook students in that direction?
Sure. Yeah. The easiest way to find us is we're on all the social media channels, Centropy Cairo. But the easiest way is probably our website, which is centropychirotraining.com. And Centropy is Syntropy. Um, and yeah, that's the easiest way to connect with us there, social media. And yeah, we got lots of resources for people. Just reach out to us, connect with us on social media, and we'd love to connect.
Awesome.